Good evening, everyone. Buenas noches. We are so delighted that you're here for this wonderful information session, especially for 1199 members. My name is Gladys Palma, the Shriner Makers, and I have the great pleasure of serving as the Chief Academic Officer and Associate Dean of Academic Affairs for the School of Labor and Urban Studies. We have a tremendous program for you tonight and can't wait to get to know all of you, but let me get started. So without further ado, it is my very, very, very great pleasure to welcome Samantha Morales, who is the 1199 Director of Education and Leadership Development.
Good evening, family. Let me just say who I am. I'm Samantha Morales, and I'm the Director of Education with our wonderful, great union, 1199 SEIU, United Healthcare Workers East. And so I just wanted to share with you a bit of my journey to give you all this opportunity to say, this is possible. Not only is it possible, I'm going to do it. And so I'm an adult who went back to school. I was a delegate in the mid-90s, and I tell this story all the time. And as a delegate, I was so involved in all of the workshops, all of the classes. And the facilitator that I had often, her name was Paula Finn, who's on this call today. And I would sit and look at Paula and I was like, what an amazing job. And back then, Paula was the Director of Education. She had the job that I have. And I said, what an amazing job to be involved in an empowering environment where you get to be a part of learning and development with union leaders. I said, I want that job. That's such a great job. And then, we have two people that talk to us, right? The one person that says, go for it, you got it, do it. And then the other person is like, you'll never do that. You'll never accomplish that. And sometimes we listen to that person. And so I listened to that person that was telling me inside of myself, you'll never do it. You only have your high school diploma, I said to myself. You'll never graduate from college. You'll never get your degree. I was a young mom, and I had all of life challenges, before me. And then I became a single mom. And so although I saw that opportunity, I didn't see myself in that opportunity. And then I got my children began to get older. And I said, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do this. And I started and then I stopped. And then I started and then I stopped. And I'm here to tell you that I now have my graduate degree, right? And I'm going for my PhD eventually. And it came from this great union, first of all. Having the opportunity to go to school and not have to pay for the school was wonderful, but also having the support, which is most important. And so I want to say that we are here to support you. I'm looking to see if my team is on here. We have two ed coordinators by the name of Tamika Stewart and Donald Hemmings. We also have a senior admin coordinator by the name of Curleen Cornett. And we're a part of your support system. We're rooting for you. We believe in you. We know you can do it. And so whether your road is certification, undergrad, or graduate, it's still a fabulous road. Go forth and do it. I'm also coming in support of George Gresham, who could not be here, our fabulous president, our powerful leader, and he wants to say to all of you that continue. We need great union leaders. As many of you may know, George is retiring in 3 years, and so we're looking, and we need strong union leaders who are educated and understand the history of the labor movement and where the labor movement needs to go. And that's all of you. So I want you to listen to that other person, this part of the shoulder where it's telling you go for it. It's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging, but go for it because it is the best journey that you can ever imagine. And so congratulations to all of you who decided to take this step. Once again, my name is Samantha Morales. I'm the Director of Education, and I'm here to support you with my team. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Gladys.
I am just delighted to present one of our faculty members who I respect tremendously and admire, Dr. Samir Santi.
Thanks, Gladys, for that introduction. And Samantha, thanks so much for sharing that story. I mean, so inspiring. And it's one that I, is familiar at SLU, and it's so, I mean, what a journey. I'm really just, I gotta say, like exceedingly delighted to be here with you all today. 1199 in particular, I should say before I get going, I mean, many of you already know this, probably know this better than me, but in addition to your union being, such a dynamic force in the labor movement today, you have such a storied history. And that history is actually what inspired me to join the labor movement to begin with. I learned about Martin Luther King and Coretta Scott King's relationship with 1199 when I was very young. And that's when I first started thinking about, the power of unions and the role that the labor movement can have in, creating a better world at the workplace, but also outside of it. And so I owe your union a real debt of gratitude for changing my life. So I'm thrilled to be here, thrilled to be talking to you all. As Gladys, alluded to, I was a union organizer and I worked in the labor movement in a variety of capacities before going back to school to study, more about the labor movement's history and not just the labor movement's history, but also the history of our economy, the history of our political system, and to better understand, what the challenges facing working people who are fighting for a better world are. And that's really what we do at SLU. People often ask, and you might be wondering, what we're called the School of Labor and Urban Studies. I said SLU, that's the shorthand that you'll start to hear if you come study with us. But, people ask me like, what is labor studies? What is urban studies? And the answer I give in short is that it's how the world works. It's how our cities are run, how our communities are, what the power relations that determine how things go in our communities and how our workplaces run. Labor and urban studies relates to everything from things that happen in a hospital or a nursing home or in a home care setting, all the way to, what's happening in Washington, D.C. and in Moscow and in Nairobi, right? I mean, all this stuff is connected. And this is what, the mission of SLU is. And so, I study the history. I'm a historian by training. My PhD is in history. I study the history of unions, and in particular unions' efforts to shape the economy and to sort of navigate economic dynamics and reform the economy in the interests of working people. But at SLU, we have a variety of people who study different parts of both workplace issues, from how unions work and how different how workplaces are structured in different sectors and in urban settings, right? But all of it is connected to these big questions of how the world works. And so that's one thing we do at SLU is just try to understand the world, to think deeply about history, about the theories that we can bring to bear on understanding the world, with the goal of trying to change it, right? The goal isn't just to understand it, but the goal is also trying to change it. So that's one thing we do at SLU. The other thing we do at SLU is have people like yourselves in our classrooms, people who come with a wealth of experience from the real world, right? From all kinds of sectors and industries, who have spent time working and engaging in their communities and haven't spent, all this time in, the ivory tower, insulated from the real world, but have engaged with it. And that's who fills our classrooms. So our classes are trying to make sense of the world academically, but also incorporating the experiences of people like yourself, people who operate trains and buses, people who work in the sanitation department, people who work in hotels, people who work in social services, all different kinds of things in the classroom, wrestling with how the world works, how we can change it to make it a better place. So that's the long and the short of it. I'm here. I'm excited to talk and hear from you, answer questions. I look forward to meeting, I hope, many of you in class and just seeing you around SLU. And so with that, I guess I'll pass it back to Gladys. But again, I'm always excited to talk to prospective students, but I'm particularly excited to be here with 1199 because, again, my personal history is wound up with, maybe not quite the way Samantha just described, but in its own way because of the importance of this union in the history of this country, to be honest. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you, Samir. Aside from our faculty, the reason why we do everything that we do is for our students. So I thought it would be nice for all of you to meet some alumni. Liam, you want to take it away?
Thanks so much, Gladys. It's an honor to be here. This feels like home. Hey, everybody. So my name's Liam. I'm a very proud alum of SLU. My journey here started back in 2013 when I joined the union semester program that they have here I interned for a local of DC 37, SSCU Local 371. That union represents a lot of different titles in the city, city workers. In that program, I got a certificate in labor studies, and I loved it so much. I loved the school, the people. I went on to get a master's degree and graduated in 2015. And I've stayed connected with the community ever since. This definitely feels like home. I owe a lot of, or not a lot, my entire career right now as it stands to SLU. I'm now a member of the United Steelworkers, which has just been extremely rewarding. And I'm a safety and health specialist at NICOSH, which is an organization that works with unions and worker organizations in the city. So still very connected. And then recently, a couple of years ago, I started teaching as an adjunct at SLU as well. I teach in the urban studies program there to a certificate program to transit workers, and I teach workplace safety and health. So kind of all around very much involved in this community. And I'm here to, let's just talk about SLU. So academic wise, SLU has the curriculum, the professors to expand your horizons and skills, whether that's in labor research, labor law, labor organizing, activism, labor history, and the flexibility is there. I think that's really important to say. SLU is offering classes at night, and I have found the professors and staff to be highly supportive, extremely understanding that most of us, if not all of us, are working adults with families, and we're really trying to balance it all. And I know it can be really scary to dive in, right, and make that commitment. And I have found the community here at SLU to be really supportive and to give people the patience and the skills and the resources to succeed here in the way that you guys want to. So there's a real depth to the academic side of things here. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that, the resources include a department called the Learning Hub that can really help students with their homework, writing papers, pretty much anything that you need help with. And I have found personally that was extremely helpful at my time at SLU. And then teaching now, my students really find that the Learning Hub, gives them that extra kick. They come in, a lot of us haven't, gone to school in a while, and we need reminders of how to even just write a paper, and Learning Hub is there to support you. So, that's the academic side, and it's really wonderful. But I think what the difference at SLU to me that really stands out among, it's not just a school, right? It's a community, and I think that's just as important. And it's a community of workers, diverse workers across many different industries who are trying to challenge ourselves and stand up to injustice and really make collective change, right? We're trying to build our skills to make that collective change. And the employers that we're trying to change, the companies that we're trying to hold accountable, they've got money on their side, right? And what we have on our side is people. And that's what SLU's trying to build up, is a community of people who are building ourselves to fight for economic and social justice. And so I've made some really deep connections at SLU. I met my best friend at SLU, professors, staff who've helped me with my career. And the connections really run deep. So I've really stuck around for the last 10 years, making the most of it. So SLU is really home, but I just, I want to leave you with, you guys have already made the decision. If you guys have shown up today, please just dive in. I haven't regretted it. It was one of the best decisions of my life, was to choose SLU and then to stick with it and to get a master's, like Samantha was saying, earlier. It's been a really wonderful ride, and I'm just very excited to continue with it and to see where it takes me, and to stay connected with this community. So if you guys are having any doubts, that's okay. Lean into that, right? It's all right to have doubts. It's all right to feel, afraid of this kind of big commitment and this kind of big decision. But SLU is going to be a soft landing pad, and people here are going to welcome you with open arms and provide you with the support that you need. So thank you so much. I'll leave my comments there, but happy to talk to anybody who wants any further information on my journey or just needs support, or I'm happy to listen and answer any questions as well. Thank you so much, Gladys.
Thank you, Liam. Nick Pineda.
Thank you, Gladys. And thank you to the faculty that's here. And thank you to SLU. Thank you to you students for showing up today. I remember being you. I remember being sitting in one of these information sessions, and I wasn't sure about a thing, and I was hating work, and I just needed to get away. And DC 37, my union at the time, I have deep roots in 1199. We'll talk about that later. My mom actually is a retiree from there. But anyway, DC 37 was letting you get some basically free credits. They were paying some of it. And I came in literally, guys, I mean, like many of you, I was trying to get a degree because this job I was at, I had all the credentials, but didn't have the degree. And there's just doors that you can't even knock on without having the bachelor's. They don't care sometimes what the bachelor's is in. And so I just needed to do something. And I started back right before Murphy Institute transformed into SLU, right before that. So I always say that I've been at the school from the beginning, but it's 35 years before that time. I've been around for, I think, for 8 years at the school, and I was just there for a certificate. Well, a certificate turned into a bachelor's. A bachelor's turned into a master's. It was not as easy as that sentence sounds. It was way harder, and it was one class at a time. And that's the thing about SLU. They get you through that one class at a time, through that one moment at a time. When you have a problem with your billing issue, oftentimes in the other schools, I forgot to tell you, prior to that time, there was 20 years. These grades are real. I'm a granddad. I really had a lot going on. I was a single dad with my daughter at the time, actually. And I had to carry all of that while just trying to figure out how to take a class. And when I tell you, I was in some classes where early on, I remember when we were in physical school, where there was a woman who, she had a problem with babysitting, and like the whole class rallied around. But the first day she showed up with her kid, and we gave her kid things to do. And we figured out a way so that she could be there and she could have babysitting. I mean, just helped her out. And that to me, I mean, that was my early days at SLU when I didn't know anything about unions, and I really wasn't that involved. This school radicalized me. When I tell you that I have folks calling me talking about I'm having problems at work, and I'm like, I feel like the A-team when they can call me up and I can walk them through from, listen, this is how you need to start documenting, and this is what you need to start doing. After getting my, and going back, Gladys spilled the beans. At the same time as all this is going on, there's this classmate of mine who ain't really like me too tough in the beginning. And I guess I grew on her. And so actually we worked together at, again, that city agency where I was going through hell. And she is the one that suggested this, actually, believe it or not. No, she didn't suggest this. She suggested the job that I ended up getting because I could apply, because I got the degree at SLU. Wouldn't have been able to apply, wouldn't have been able to have the job that I have, wouldn't have met the love of my life because she wasn't talking to me at work. And she only talked to me in school. I guess, I don't know, maybe I said something smart, and that got her to let me date her and then propose at graduation and share that moment with the school. So if, folks talking about how the school changed their lives, it's real. And I hate, I always hated cliches, and I always hated things that sounded canned. And I hope this doesn't sound that way. You can really email me, and I'd really be happy to share every step of this journey and how it wasn't easy, but this support system that exists in this school. They mentioned the Learning Center. They mentioned some, specific individuals. You'll find that individual is there for you. They're there. Gladys is there. I mean, even the dean will pass you by and shock you and know your name, Dean Mancios. And so, you have Irene as your academic advisor telling you, okay, this is what's going on. Irene, look, I can't pass. I really need help. I'm not going to do this. Okay, listen, this is what you need to do. And that's how they hold your hand from that first moment when you walk in. Like right now, I'm giving you my email. It's for real. I'm going to put it in the chat. It's for real. Really test it out. See if I'll really respond. See if I'll really have some information for you and point you in the right direction, and test it out. Because that's what I did when I took that first class. When I got those first credits, I had no idea I was getting a master's degree. I literally was just, I just somehow was trying to get a bachelor's, couldn't figure out how I was going to make it happen. And when I got to this school, it felt like finally somebody gave a damn. I'm just going to be honest. These folks give a damn. And I give a damn now. And they made me give a damn. And they didn't let me fail. And so I'm here. I'm always happy to speak to new students. I'm actually, another great story. I was at I'm going to stop fast, guys. I'm going to stop. I know I'm going long, but there's so much that happened. I was actually going to doing my bachelor's. I remember a paper for my bachelor's, and I went to Hostos Community College. And the security guard there was, I didn't have ID for Hostos, I had ID for SLU. Anyway, he was like, well, what's SLU? He's a student here. I wish he could have been speaking. He asked from what's SLU to come to the information session to being a student. And let me tell you, the journey is made that much easier when you could look to your left and you could look to your right and you see people that look like you, who are in the same boat as you, who are having the same struggles, some worse, some less, and they're still pushing forward. And that's all that we could do every day, every little bit. And it really does radicalize you. It does make you an activist. It does make you care if you didn't. You find out stuff that the unions changed in lives that you had no clue. There'd be kids working besides you for 80 hours a week if it wasn't for unions. These things, Martin Luther King was down there supporting the sanitation strike when they killed him. These things you wouldn't know. They're just not common knowledge. I mean, that's probably what I hope the most to bring to the school is spreading the gospel that these people help people. And those other people, I don't know what they do for people. I want to say they hurt people, but that's what ends up happening. And so this is the place to be. If you're here, one class at a time, one day at a time, one credit at a time, I can promise you it is the most worth it thing I've ever done in my life. And with that, I will let you go. Thank you. Thank you for having me.